For sure. And if it's Vic versus Squid, I'm a little scared for Vic, unless Victor has a car, in which case Squid is screwed. Because if there's one thing that we've learned from this show is that if Vic has a car, it's gonna crash and it's gonna mess up someone's day. Hello and welcome to May the Review Be With You with Nick and Joe. I'm Joe.
I'm Nick.
And today we are doing a mid-season review of The Penguin. HBO Max's The Penguin, Colin Farrell's The Penguin, and we've just concluded with episode 5, Homecoming. We couldn't wait to do a review of this. Honestly, we probably would have waited until we got to the ending, but considering how wild this show is, we just want to get out here and express our thoughts right now. Nick, you actually just saw the episode. How are you feeling after it?
Totally insane. I've got like a ridiculous amount of notes from just the Homecoming episode.
Nice.
I mean, we're not going to get to all of this. These are just thoughts, right? And things to talk about.
You're going to be guiding this conversation because I'm just going on memory at this point.
Insane. I mean, episode 4 was insane, right? And the end of episode 4 is Sophia essentially gasses the whole Falcone family and keeps one person alive. Well, keeps two people alive, the daughter and then and Betty, which we'll get to. And then so that ends on like an insane ending, right? She just like kills everyone. And episode 5 basically doesn't slow down, really. Penguin gets his hands dirty a bunch, which was totally, I was a little bit shocked about, to be honest, even though I guess I shouldn't have been. But anyway, this show does not have a bad episode. This show is high octane and awesome.
Yeah, I agree with that. It has not let go of the tension since episode 1, since the first scene of episode 1 with Alberto and Oz. It has just been nonstop fun. I think we briefly described our feelings on the first episode in one of our previous casts, and basically the way I went into this show was I didn't have very high expectations, and it blew me away, and it has continued to blow me away every episode. The last one, Homecoming, we're about to get into it. There were moments where I was basically just like watching it like this, because I was so sure like something horrible, another horrible shoe was about to drop at any given moment. You know, it has been so much more fun and interesting and well thought out than I ever thought it was going to be. It is probably my favorite show on television right now.
It's hard to disagree. It is really, really, really well done. Yeah, it's hard to pick another show on TV right now that's better. There's some that are also doing really well, and I think Agatha All Along is one of those. But man, there's just something like really cool and dark and different about the Penguin, right? Because it's just there's no heroes, man. It's all villain on villain on villain. Which villain do you like better? Are you picking the right villain to come out on top? There ain't no heroes. There ain't no Batman. It's all.
No, it's funny. The showrunners basically see Miliotti's character as like the closest thing to a hero,
right?
In this show, and like she's the most terrifying character easily.
Yeah, it's so interesting because like the show's called The Penguin, right? And so, for all intents and purposes, like the main character is Oswald Cobblepot or the Penguin, but Sophia Falcone, or as we got in this episode, Gianti, I think is what her name is.
Gigante.
Gigante. Sophia Gigante is pretty much right up there with the main character. Like, it would be hard for me to tell you that the Penguin is the main character and everyone else is supporting, because really it's the Penguin and Sophia are the main characters driving the show. And I mean, if you had to pick a hero-esque character, I guess it's Sophia, but she is, just like you said, the worst one. So I don't know. There ain't no heroes. That's all I'm saying. Ain't no heroes.
Ain't no heroes. Episode 5, Homecoming. Let's just get into it right here. This is where we're vibing. It pretty much picks up with what you were saying, Nick. Sophia has had a carbon monoxide leak in the house, and it's basically killed virtually the entire Falcone family except for Johnny Vitti, which she has some strategic points that she's going to use him for, not before a lot of torture, which that scene in and of itself was very interesting. We know Oz is getting ready to make his move on the Marconis and get his mushrooms back. he makes a play on stealing the sun, and there's an exchange that goes horrifically nightmarish
For everyone.
for everyone. Ultimately, I feel like this episode it's very properly titled as Homecoming, with of course Oz ending up like in his family roots thanks to Victor smuggling his mom back to the Crown Point, right? But it's kind of like it's a reset of the game board, right? At least for the war that's about to happen. You know, like the pieces are all being realigned, and like there's like a new like line in the sand that's being drawn for like the upcoming fight.
Yeah. That's a great way to kind of summarize everything. It's a reset of the board, right? Because now we've got Sophia and kind of going to see the last Maroni, like Sal, who is escaped from prison now randomly, but his family's dead. So it's like Sal, Maroni, and Sophia Gigante. Now, basically teaming up after their families were, going at it for decades, but now they're teaming up, and their common enemy is Oswald Cobblepot, the Penguin, who has seemingly returned home, as you had alluded to, and has found his new lair in the trolley station underneath Gotham, basically.
I kind of want to jump straight to the end, actually.
Great, that's fine.
I mean, there are plenty of other things I want to talk about, but so I get such big. I think it's oh shoot, now I'm trying to remember the exact. Yeah, okay. I get such big Batman Return vibes from the end of this episode.
Nice.
Right? Like we talked about the Danny DeVito Penguin the last time we were talking about the Penguin. And I think there's a clip in that episode if you go back, and it's Danny DeVito screaming like, "I am not a human being! I am an animal!" And like he's like in his like penguin lair.
Right.
That's like underneath the city. And the trolley station that they're in looks so much like that, even with like the puddles of water that are scattered about that look like the pools for the penguins that are swimming in and out of his lair. It looks so much like that. And also I don't know, I get like hardcore Batman and Robin vibes from Victor and Oz. Like they're kind of an inversion of Batman and Robin.
Yeah.
And now we have like the tunnels that Batman and Robin use to like get in and out of the city, right?
Right. Yeah, it's the relationship between Vic and Oswald has been such a fun like character development like throughout the season, and especially for Vic. What a big moment he had. I think it was 2 episodes ago, right, where he was about to flee and leave the city, right? And then he made this decision at the bus station that he couldn't leave Oz, and then hightails it out of there, and then ends up saving Oz and Sophia from essentially being murdered and ambushed, right? And then that leads us to this whole crazy Sophia development, and then now with what happened today, or with this episode with the Penguin and Victor and everything else that unfolded. But the relationship between them, very Batman and Robin-esque, but just of course on the dark side of it, on the villain side. And so I'm assuming Penguin's just gonna like raise up an army from the depths of destruction from this flood, and massive, all these, you've got a whole nother sector of Gotham that was like kind of like Vic was saying, like nobody comes here. Everyone's like written this part of Gotham off, right? But we clearly see that there's still crime in that area, and there's still a bunch of people just like waiting for their own moment to shine. And the Penguin is the perfect villain and leader for that kind of a broken down section of Gotham. So I imagine he's going to like rally the troops in that area.
I think you're exactly right. Because I was wondering, as Sophia is merging the Gigante and the Maroni family. I think I said Marconi earlier. Thank you for correcting me. Maroni families.
Did you say Marconi?
I think I did. We have like friends in Chicago who are the Marconis. I think I inserted them into this show.
Maroni, yeah.
But yeah,
Maroni.
the Maronis. She's merging the two families, and based on the previews for the next episode, it looks like she's also banking on the support of like the Triad as well. So like that left me thinking like, well, like what support could like Oz possibly rally?
Right.
And I think you just nailed it. We know Oz has come back to Crown Point. We found out that this is where he was from, right? And we know from the beginning of this show that there was a respected mobster in that neighborhood that he admired, that he wants to be, right? He even referenced him again in this episode with like the chariot that he'd like drive around in throughout the neighborhood. So I think that's what Oz is going to become for Crown Point. He's going to become this like respected guy, and like Vic might even be like the liaison for like since Oz has been gone for so long from Crown Point, and maybe Vic is well known enough to like act as a bridge. I don't know. There's something going to happen with that Squid character.
Yeah.
And I'm so scared to see what it's going to be.
Vic's like last stepping stone into becoming a true villain is to probably get his revenge in a gruesome way on this Squid character that he's like scared of, right? Like Vic has had this crazy character arc where he, was just like a kid trying to make a couple bucks so that he could survive after his family gets completely wiped out from this, terrible tragedy in Gotham, hanging around with the wrong crowd. And he gets like saved by Penguin, basically brought under his wing, and then has these internal struggle like, oh, do I want to do this? Is this right? Can I just flee and leave Gotham? And Penguin essentially lets him make a choice and lets him go. And then he decides not to go. And it's just like, well, now you're in it. And he says it in this episode. He's like, I'm all in. It's like, okay, well, he still has this major development that he needs, which is, if you want to be a bad guy, you got to get your hands dirty, and more dirty than you already have, right? He hasn't really nothing too. I mean, he's got his fair share of like illegal things he's done, but getting some revenge is like a level of villainship that he has to earn, and I think we're gonna get that at some point in the next couple episodes.
For sure. And if it's Vic versus Squid, I'm a little scared for Vic, unless Victor has a car. In which case, Squid is screwed, because if there's one thing that we've learned from this show is that if Vic has a car, it's gonna crash and it's gonna mess up someone's day.
You just got killed by a Daewoo Lanos, motherfucker! How you like me now, huh?
Yeah. He is very good at crashing vehicles.
He's so good at it.
Oh my gosh. Go ahead.
But yeah, I love that prediction on Vic. I think we were both scared for Victor at the start of this show, that ultimately we will probably see him die as a result of Oz's ambitions. I still think there's a possibility that could happen, but I'm feeling much more. I feel like there's now a route where Vic comes out okay in this. Well, maybe not unscathed, but alive at least.
Yeah, I think there's a route where he comes out alive, but he's not going to be. He'll be finally like fully transitioned to the dark side, if you will.
Yeah, full mobster.
Full mobster in the Penguin world, a made man in Penguin's leadership, if you will. Can we talk about two scenes?
Oh, please.
One from Sophia and one from the Penguin. So there's the scene where Sophia of course there's the torture scene with Vetti, or Vitti, excuse me, Johnny Vitti.
Yeah,
Johnny Vitti, which is like, almost looked like something out of Saw for a second. Not as bad, but close. Pretty much just torture. And Vitti tells her this story about her mother, which is like super smart on his part, because it really gets him to the point where he might actually survive and not be killed by Sophia, right? He just has to accept that she's the new boss.
Right, he's like playing into that.
He's playing into that. It's like, okay, good. This is a smart move. Like, this is your only shot, dude. Like, and then we transition. We get a quick scene where the Dr. Julian from Arkham comes to Sophia, and at first I thought he was wearing a wire. but he's not wearing a wire. He's just equally as insane and wants to be a part of whatever she's building.
Oh,
Because
he's just so like high on her shit. He's like,
yeah,
her. I'm all about
he's
it.
He's creepy and in love, and he became insane by working at Arkham, clearly. But then we get the scene where she's got everyone who's left like in the room, and she's talking about, the Falcone family is dead, and it's the Gigante family now, and then Johnny Vitti opens his stupid mouth, and he's trying to like backwalk what she's saying about the Falcones being gone and like changing the name. And I'm just like, oh, this guy, he's about to get shot in the head. And then, sure enough, she takes out her fucking gun. And just like, it's like, okay, well, I gave you an opportunity. He had one opportunity. And I think she was going to give him one. She was going to give him the chance to actually like get in line. And he opened his stupid mouth and he got shot right in the head. And everyone else in the room loved what she had to say because it was awesome. She's like, I'm going to share all this with you. Join me. Perfect. Why not? Like, what other choices do you have? So that scene was like insane, right? Like Johnny Vitti, what an idiot. He had it. He was there. He was fine.
Yeah, and like this was dumb on his part for so many reasons, right? Like he had already played like the last card that he had, which was where the tagless money was, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then for him to like step on her toes, it's like, do you not remember how dangerous this person is, dude? I guess he thought, he had the backing of the rest of the gangsters at that point.
Yeah.
And just
stupidity, pure stupidity. And
then
she
bought them very quick.
Yeah. And then the other scene is Penguin. I love how like every episode where we get some sort of, or at least for the most part, we get some sort of insight into how smart the Penguin actually is. But then we also get a moment where even though he's so smart, he can't possibly see all the outcomes and he isn't prepared for everything. And like a perfect example is this episode where he planned the whole like kidnapping the Maroney son perfectly. Bring me the mushrooms. I'm bringing you your son. Like he knew he had the whole plan to like cover him in gasoline and then was going to light him on fire and kill the wife as well. And simultaneously he's hired somebody in the prison to stab Salvatore Maroni to get rid of him as well. Right. So he's got this whole plan and he's going to get the mushrooms back and all this stuff. And it's like, you know what? Actually, like sounds pretty brilliant.
I actually verbally said out loud when he lit the sun on fire, I was like, that was so smart.
Yeah. Like very smart. And it's like, and he's like, it's like awesome. But we get this very smart move, right? Like he's going to get rid of him, that family completely. And he's going to slide right in and he's going to have all the mushrooms. What he doesn't foresee is that it could be an ambush, which it was, but they were able to get out of it. So they close the garage door behind him, right? And they insulate him. And he's not thinking about lighting people on fire in a warehouse that might have some kind of extinguishing system, which then ruins the mushrooms. So that's like Penguin coming up with a brilliant plan, but not thinking of all the possibilities of something going wrong. And then the other scenario too of, well, what if the guard stabs Maroni, but he doesn't die, right?
It's a half measure.
It's a half measure. So that doesn't go well for him either, right? So he has like 2 buckets of mushrooms left. Mrs. Maroni and son are dead. Salvatore escapes prison. So it's like half and half. Then he gets, essentially screws him up because he has to flee to Crown Point. And now Sophia is like really on the up and up here with Sal Maroni. So really just kind of fascinating to see the smarts of the Penguin not always fully come to fruition.
That being said, his mom, this is a ticking time bomb, right?
Yes.
And I thought for a moment today was going to be the day that it explodes, and it was going to be with Victor, and like she's going to get everyone killed here. This is an amazing performance of a woman with dementia. And it is terrifying and heartbreaking, and at times heartwarming. It's just overall just a part of this show I don't think I was ever prepared for, and how she's very like in a very Lady Macbeth way, like pushing Oz like further and further into the darkness of this city, you know?
Yeah. I think I wrote down like she's insane like 5 times in my notes. Like that long list of notes is just like Mrs. Cobblepot is crazy. And part of it's because of the dementia, but the other part of it is because she just is not a good role model. And she's clearly taught him all the wrong things. And she wants power just as much as he does.
Not that I'm complaining.
And it's more terrifying in ways, right? Because of the dementia. So you have just no idea what she does and doesn't remember and what she will or will not do or say in the moment. I was sure she was about to blow the Vic's cover when they first got the crown point. I was like, oh my God, she's going to like yell at the squid guy and it's going to be a whole thing right now.
Right.
But somehow it wasn't. That's for later, I guess.
Yeah, I do think we've set up, you know, a little. We've mentioned this before. It's a mini like a secondary antagonist with Squid, which I don't think we quite understand what the beef is there. We know that his family didn't like Squid, and that he was like a shady character, and obviously Vic is like really nervous around him.
Right.
Bad dude.
Right.
And maybe this is someone. Actually, I wonder if this is someone who's like really risen in the chaos of Crown Point since the flood.
For sure.
Yeah,
I think
and, like,
so.
This is who they're gonna have to like take out to like gain this new army.
Yeah, I think you're 100% correct about it. I think that's a great prediction. Like, definitely see that him being the main antagonist of the Crown Point area in regards to like the Penguin and Vic go. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, considering this is absolutely where they're going with this. Considering like Sophia and like Oz, they're kind of two sides of the same coin. Like Sophia's, I wouldn't say she's amazing at planning either. She's great at improvising as well. Right.
Right.
And they appear to like when they were teamed up, you know, temporarily, they were a great force to be reckoned with, right? Able to like play off of each other's like improvisations. But like the big differences between them was how they see each other, right? She's kind of disgusted by Oz and like how, you know, he's lowly, he's poor, like there's that classism between them. And I think like in their character paths, like that classism kind of defines like the trajectory of like the rest of their story here. And I think we're making some pretty good predictions with Oz. And I think the thing that sells it for me is Sophia's, the way that she has purchased her army is by taking the Falcone wealth and dividing it among like Gotham's like black market elite, right? Among those who are already like pretty powerful. Whereas like Oz is probably going to pull off like some dark Robin Hood stuff, you know?
Yeah. The only chance he has is to rally the Crown Point underworld, if you will, that no one else is paying attention to, and that everyone's written off, which is it's really the perfect complement to Oz and the Penguin and to what he is and where he came from, right? That's really the perfect army for him to raise, right? He was never going to have the respect of the black market like bosses, right? So
yeah, elites,
yeah. Thank you. Yeah. So this is shaping up to be a really interesting last couple episodes here.
Yeah, I think so too. That being said, with the episodes that we've had so far, what do you think has been the strongest episode, your favorite episode?
Oh, man. This is a good question. I think my favorite episode, honestly, was probably episode 4 so far, which is the previous one. And that's just when Sophia, like, it was really like a Sophia episode, right? Like we got to see like what happened to her after that ambush from episode 3, where Vic like crashes the car and like they get away. We really got some more insight into Sophia's like younger life and how she got there. And then her character arc of like, she was not a murderer before, but Arkham basically made her one. And then like, at the end of episode 4, she just gasses the entire family. This recent one, 5, Homecoming, was insane as well.
Episode 4 was probably the most interesting, and it was kind of the most different too, with them really playing with the lucidity of Sophia's mind as she's deteriorating in Arkham. In particular, when the walls start coming, literally the walls start coming down, and like she starts imagining them as like the moment that she discovered her mom in the bedroom, and like she's still like mentally like trapped there. That episode was just really terrifying, super well done. Milioti,
So good.
so great. And I was talking to a friend about this before the show. Anytime I learned her name because of this show. Anytime I saw this actress before, it was always just, oh, the mother from How I Met Your Mother. I never even would call her by the character name. I would just say the mother. And now it's Krista Milioti. She's incredible. But I love. Okay, so real quick thing on. I had to do some learning on this character in the comics. I realized I've read about this character before, and I didn't even remember. She's in Batman: The Long Halloween, which is a great story, and she's a mammoth of a woman. She's huge, and the show purposely went with an actress like Milioti, who's very petite, and went against the comic, not the comic origin, but like the comic depiction, right? In the comic, like she is the Hangman, right? And they went with our at least for comic book people, like our idea of like, oh yeah, she is the Hangman, and like they played on that, and we were doing the same thing as all the rest of the characters in that show, right? We were putting that on her, even though she's not. But Gotham molds her into becoming something darker and worse, right?
Yeah.
And despite the fact that she's not a large person, I think the persona that she takes on it's monstrous, right? It's this big monster, and that's when she finally takes on the Gigante family name, right?
And it becomes more terrifying in that sense, right? Because like this unassuming woman, seemingly, at least at the beginning, becomes this larger than life, terrifying figure that, for all intents and purposes, is the equivalent of the comic book version giant or whatever that you will, right? But just the force of nature that she becomes, right? And she like describes her mother as a force in this episode, and she has become that force then probably times 100 in this case. Insane.
It is funny, right? Like it's almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy, because you're right. Like she's not that. She's actually like a seemingly, like, despite the fact that she's aware that she comes from a crime-ridden family and there's probably blood on their hands, like she's relatively like a good person at the beginning of all of this, and they mold her into becoming, you know, that which she was supposed to take the fall for, right? It's just a true like Gotham tragedy, right? Like truly, like some of the best like Gotham tragedies, like the One Bad Day with the Joker, right? Like that story. I feel like this is comparable in a lot of ways to that. So I'm so glad we got that flashback episode that you were talking about in episode 4, and the way how it was presented as a flashback was really cool. Only for us to come to the present for the last like 15 minutes of the episode and push the narrative forward by killing the whole Falcone family in the most maybe not the most disturbing ways, but like in a very like at least it blew me away. I just didn't see that coming. Very scary, very cool. What would you say is your favorite character arc of this show?
It's tough to pick between Sophia and Vic, but I think it's Vic. But we'll see how the next couple episodes go. Like right now, I think it's Vic for me. It's hard not to pick Sophia already, though. Like if the show was over now, it probably would be Sophia, right? But we have a couple more episodes left, and I think that there's. Yeah. I think we're gonna get a lot more. We're gonna get like some final development for Vic here in the next couple episodes. So I'm kind of leaning towards him.
I'm right there with you, and it's exactly because of that, because like it feels like we still have so much more for Vic that I'm really excited about.
Yeah. So
whereas Sophia has become like the monster.
Yeah, she's there. She's like, this is extremely impressive and insane. But there's something really interesting about the Vic storyline.
Agreed.
Yeah. So we'll see if he fully assumes the Robin role to Penguin here, if you will, here in the next couple episodes. He's got to kill some people. Yeah. He's got to kill some people.
What is like, so like if a Robin is the sidekick to a Batman, what is the sidekick to a Penguin? Is that like a I don't know. Is that like a lamprey?
Oh,
I
God.
have no idea.
Oh God. I have no idea. What would be the?
I don't know. Pesto the Penguin. We'll go with that. Vic becomes Pesto.
Jesus.
Okay. Okay, so we've got 3 more episodes on the Penguin. We will, of course, have our final review on that. We're very excited for all of it. However, next time, we're going back to our time travel draft. Nick, what are we watching?
Oh my gosh. We are back finally with time travel. So the next category that we're doing is superhero time travel. So Joe and I both picked a superhero movie that has time travel in it. And Joe's pick was Donnie Darko. And he insists it's a superhero film. We'll hear about that next week.
Yes, you will.
My pick for superhero film was X-Men Days of Future Past.
Definitively a superhero movie.
Definitively, yes. But we're going with Joe's pick this time first. So we're going to rewatch Donnie Darko, and then we're going to talk about the time travel aspect primarily of that film next week. So tune in for that. That'll be awesome. I can't wait for Joe to make his case on the superhero aspect here of Donnie Darko. He's got...
I won't even have to. You're gonna watch it, and you're gonna be like, you're gonna get to one scene, you're gonna be like, God damn it!
So
I guarantee it.
But that is what we are watching next week.
Yes. So please join us next week. And keep up with our reviews as we continue to watch episode by episode of The Penguin and Agatha. You can do that by, of course, subscribing here on YouTube. But where else can the people find us, Nick?
They can find us on Threads at May the Review Be With You. We're also on Instagram at the same handle. And we're just, we'll be there weekly talking about all the different TV shows and films going on and what we're watching, what's streaming. And until next time.
May the review be with you.
Peace.